I started making pins 3 years before I quit. Three or 4 years before I quit teaching. Like when I first got into it, I started the Kickstarter to try to raise some money for tools, just to have more tools to work with. You know, I sold most of my pin collection I had at that point to buy some of the things I needed to make pins. Like the first morning, it went live. I went to school at Mountain Pine, and I opened it up before class started. And first period, I was like, "Y'all, I made $1,000 already." But that first $1,000, one of my students said, she's like, "Newt, you're not going to quit teaching to make pins, are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, right. I'm not going to be able to make a living at pins." The third year doing pins part-time while teaching full-time, I made about 3 times more with pins than I did teaching. And I thought, this is probably the way I should go. I didn't know they existed until she bought me one. I've always been an artist. Like I said, I was really into like lino carving and block printing. In college, I really got heavy into pen and ink. I love to draw, and I just filled up notebook after notebook after notebook. And ever since like the 8th grade, if I saw a pen or a pencil on the ground, I was picking it up. If the teacher had like a box of pens, I would go through and look for like the Pilot V pen, you know, the really nice smooth liquid ink filled ones, and grab that one, you know, out of the student pen box. You know, my first expensive pen was a $25 Lamy Safari, and I was like, "Oh, that's so expensive for a pen, you know, 25 bucks." My first expensive pen was a $200 Pilot, and I was like, "Holy crap, $200 for a pen." I mean, and I'm selling pens now for between $150 and $500 on average, right? I've made some with bits of gold and stuff for a couple of grand, which is crazy. They're pins, right? But you know, my wife bought me this cheap pen from Hobby Lobby, and I got hooked, and I just started buying and buying and buying. And then I found out that, oh, guys are making these in their shops too. I started giving pins away to my students. People online were donating like just handfuls of pins to me to like clean up and give to the students too. So I was like buying pins and getting pins donated to me and just giving them away to the kids. Most of them, the cheaper pins, break real easily. So I wanted to make pins that were more durable. After I found out that you could make pins in your shop, I was like, I want to make pins for my students, right? So they can have like better quality, more durable, longer lasting, you know, nice pins. What the deal was at first was buy a pin, give a pin. So every time somebody ordered a pin, I would make a twin of it or something similar to give to a student. When I graduated high school, I didn't have like any plans or hopes of going to college. I couldn't afford it. My grades weren't good enough for scholarships. My parents made literally like $50 too much for me to qualify for a Pell Grant. I mean, that was the cutoff. So I just was like, I'm gonna work, whatever. You know, I'll save up. I'll get a place to rent, maybe some roommates. I'll move out eventually. No college. It's just not in my future. And so I'm hanging out at a friend's house after graduation. This is, you know, summertime. They're all getting ready to go to Rhodes and Henderson and everything else because all my friends were way smarter than me. And my friend's mom was like, "So what are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna work." She's like, "Yeah, but what do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, I'm working here and here and here, you know, to make ends meet, right?" It's like, "If you could go to college, what would you do?" I'm like, "I'd probably be an art teacher." "Well, why?" And I love people and I love art, and you know, talking about this stuff is fun. And she's like, "Well, if I took you down to the school here, would you go?" And I'm like, "What?" So she paid for my first 2 years of college at National Park. Well, at first it was sort of like a raffle thing. You would buy a number, and then at the end of every month I would randomly pick somebody, make a custom pin for them, and however much money I raised that month would go into a bank account. At the end of the first year we raised $2,000, second year was $2,000, and it kept going up. Like one year we raised like $25,000. This year we're at like almost 15 or almost 16, I don't remember. But whatever we've raised by the end of that school year, every bit of it goes to scholarships.